Hello, everyone. My name is Shawn Gallaway, and I'm the founder of the I Choose Love movement and the creator of the song and book I Choose Love. So I'm glad to be here with Love Begins With Me folks here, and wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey and how I came into really the heartfulness of love in my own life, and then how I'm using that to reach out to the world with. So years ago, when I first started on my spiritual journey, it came from what I would call a calling. And callings can be either great fortune or great challenge. In this circumstance, it was a relationship that ended for me, and I began to really question who I was, and begin to undertake that passage into what I would call the shadow side of my life. So basically, I started working with a mentor who offered me a choice, and that choice was love or fear. And so I would ask you the same thing. What do you choose, love or fear? In my experience of this, what I was given was basically a guideline to understand that when I chose love, that all these fears and hurts and wounds would begin to surface in me so that I could begin to heal and transform them, and to literally walk into the world in a way that I was actually consciously aware of the love that I am, and being able to share that so that other people could heal as well. Now, the biggest challenge for me on my quest was depression. And of course, I think depression comes, it's a soul sickness, but in my experience, it was not only situational, but it was also a spiritual sickness or dis-ease. And from this place, I began to really uncover all the depth of wounding that I had coming into the world in separation, is what I would call it. It's like part of my quest has been about to actually reconnect or plug back into what I would call the source, or divine love, or in this case unconditional love. And I had to begin to weed out those thought forms and subconscious belief patterns and behaviors that would allow me to come back to my heart. So the fears that I had to go through were just intense, and as I have worked with people over the years, it's been an interesting experience to watch them choose love and confront their own fears. Now, one of the things in choosing love that I would like to share with you is it's not easy. It's not an easy path. It hasn't been for me anyway. And because there's this sort of battle that's been happening inside of me, and what I'm doing is actually allowing my heart to take control of my life, as opposed to being led by the fears that were rooted in my mind. And as I begin to shift that, there was a bit of a war for control inside myself. And I like to tell this story of I was working with a Vietnam veteran, and he had confronted this place of fear within himself, and he said, "Shawn, I'm more afraid of going through this than I was in a battlefield with bullets flying over my head." And I said, "It's okay. We're going to breathe through this, and together we'll step through this." So one of the things about choosing love, for me, it's also been about embracing authentic community. And how do we hold what I would call the Christ consciousness, or that unconditional love, in a way that we're each holding a part of that so that we can all heal together. And I think we're coming into a place right now of what I would call unity consciousness. I don't think, I know it, that everyone is important. Everyone's holding a piece to the whole, and we're going to support each other by going through these transformations and facing our fears, and understanding that, no, you're not going crazy, you're healing. And if you're held by people who understand this and know this, it's okay. I like to tell this story. Years ago, I read this, Carolyn Mace talked about this a little bit, when the Tibetan monasteries were invaded by China. It was like this energetic, spiritual energy came flying out all over the world. And one of the things that the Tibetan monks do is that they understand that they're going to have to wrestle with their own fearful ego. And they're held safe when they do that. And what that can look like is severe depression or psychotic episodes or whatever, but they're held there for a period of time until they wrestle it and they come to a place where they have control of that aspect of their consciousness, and it begins to fuel the fire that they are so that they can shine brighter in the world. And so depression is at epidemic levels in our world right now. People are beginning to understand that when you disconnect from nature and the root of the earth, that you're also disconnecting from what I would call your spiritual essence, your connection to source. That's been my experience anyway. And with this onset of depression, we're beginning to realize that yes, we've left those teachings that are really rooted in truth and true honest love. So a lot of my experience, again, with my own personal crazy or coming through depression was rooted in coming into the arts and using the arts as a healing tool to be able to gain insight and awareness and be able to understand that depression for me, although as rigid and awful as it was and challenging as it was, walking around with feeling like I want to be dead for months on end, I had to make friends with it. I had to go in and really do the work, internal work, and that had to begin with me, which is what the Love Begins With Me is all about. And that started off with the choice. Yes, I choose to love, and now I'm going to go diving into this dark depression and understand what are the thought forms, what are the experiences that I've had that have left me feeling somewhat distorted in my thinking and have left emotional baggage within my own energetic field that I can begin to uncover and release and let go. Now this, I think the great value in today's world is that we can get through this much faster than we did back in the 80s and 90s when I was in the midst of all of this. And that's the good news. You know, the challenging news is that, yep, we still have to go through it. And as we come together, we can support each other through this great transformation, because it really, at the root of it, that I found was my joy. I had no idea that I was gifted in the visual arts along this journey. And when I started painting pictures, and I got the opportunity to paint out what I was feeling, and it was just a liberating experience, you know, to paint these pictures where I was, you know, is like vomiting and up, like blowing up like a volcano, and like ancient tears running down my cheeks. And it was interesting because after each one of these paintings there would be this wonderful painting of joy that came after it. So one of the things that I also like to tell people on the healing journey is that yes, it's difficult, but the rewards are just off the charts beneficial. There's a sense of peace and joy and wonder and innocence that comes from that courage that it takes and that bravery that it takes to confront those shadows within myself. And now it's interesting because we're coming to a place in our world with unity consciousness where we all realize we're connected. And from that place, how do we move forward and become the light so that other people can see their light?